Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I will be evaluating the Washington Commanders running back room, talking about who I think will make the roster at the running back position, also talk about how it stacks up compared to other groups in the NFL. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe for Washington and NFL content, also hit that like button and the notification bell as well, and check out Manta Sleep, link in the description, use code HTTC. And huge shout out to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video. They make the best sleep masks in the world. They have a bunch of different types, some that can change temperature to make it colder or warmer for you when you go to sleep, some that have speakers in them so you can listen to something calming before you go to bed, and choose what wakes you up. And yeah, I have one right here. I've been using it the last few weeks and it's really helped me out a ton. You just put it on and go to sleep. So overall, I think the Washington Commanders have a very, very solid running back room, with room to be a very good running back room, depending on how Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson developed this year. You got Brian Robinson, who obviously had that unfortunate event happen to him before the season and started off a little bit slow, but by the end of the season really was getting into the swing of things and was very, very efficient in my opinion. And then you got Gibson, who we're still waiting for him to be used properly in this offense, which I think could happen this year, and we're going to talk about that in a second. We have some other guys as well that could make an impact this year, and we will see. Let's first start off with Brian Robinson. Obviously will be making the roster for the Washington Commanders, and I believe will be RB1. He's 24 years old, 6'1", 228, out of Alabama. We knew this, and you look at his stats, they got better in my opinion throughout the course of the season. In the beginning it was a little bit slow, 9 for 22, 17 for 60, 20 for 73, 8 for 20, 13 for 44, but right around around week 12, week 11, I would say, against the Texans, it started to get a little bit better. You had, 15 for 57, still not great, but 4 yards a carry. Then you had 18 for 105, and he also had a receiving touchdown in that game. Then you got 21 for 96, and it kept getting better, except for the last couple weeks, but those games were tough. Those games were tough for sure. And he wasn't running against or behind a great offensive line. Scheme and everything wasn't great as well in terms of the plays that Scott Turner was calling. And he still had a solid season. So for what he was running behind, I think he did solid. You would like to see that yards per carry get a little bit better, but I think that stat is a little bit misleading, just because sometimes it's not up to the running back. It's up to the play caller and also the offensive line, because if you get touched 2 to 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage by 2 or 3 players, that's not usually your fault. But I think Brian Robinson, you look at it, he had 800 total yards. I think it'll probably be, let's say, instead of 205 carries, I think it'll be more than that, because he did miss the first 4 games this season, and even in week 5 he played less than he normally would be playing. I think it'll probably be around 240 carries, because I don't think he's going to get a lot of games with 26 over 20 carries, just because I think Eric Bieniemy will pass the ball a little bit more, and I think Gibson will get some touches, and so Chris Rodriguez. So I'll say around 230 carries, maybe 240, maybe 250, and I think he'll get over 1,000 rushing yards. So let's say 250 for 1,106 rushing touchdowns, and then maybe, what did he get receiving wise? He had not a ton of 60 receiving yards. I'll say he gets 100 receiving yards for and a touchdown. So similar to what he had last year. I think it'll be really solid. Didn't have any fumbling issues. Hopefully that remains the same, knock on wood. He had 2 fumbles, lost none of them. Love to see it. So I think we know what we're going to get from Brian Robinson. Not a home run running back, but a very solid guy that can get you those short yardage situations, and still, even on first down, he is a pure running back. He knows the holes to run through and everything, and yeah, he's very solid, and we'll see what he's able to do this year. I think he'll get over 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. Next guy, this is Antonio Gibson. He is the X factor this year. He is still pretty young, 6'2", 220 pounds. Obviously played at Memphis. This past season had 150 carries for 546 yards. 3 touchdowns, averaged 3.66 yards a carry. And, in the beginning of the year, was getting a lot more carries than he did later on because Brian Robinson came back. But even in the middle of the season, like weeks 9 to like 11, he had over 10 carries in all those games and still had a couple games where he got a decent amount of carries. So, the thing is, receiving wise, though, he didn't have a ton. He had 247 yards, which was the lowest of his, or no, never mind, sorry, 353 yards, which was the highest of his career, but still not as, much as you would like. And, I think he didn't get as many, receptions as you would like, and some of those just weren't creative and everything. All of his receptions basically came at the line of scrimmage or behind it, and you would like to see some where he's actually running routes. And there were times where you would see that, like the game against the Jaguars where he had almost a touchdown. I can't remember the other game where he scored. It might have been the Texans, but let's see. Actually, we can see right here. It was against the Packers and the Colts. But I don't know which game it was. Probably the Packers. But that was a really, really nice play by him. And good play call by Scott Turner. We didn't really see it again. And Jared McKinnon had 9 receiving touchdowns, which is as much as Kadarius Toney, Justin Watson, what's his name? Vantless Scantling. I know I'm butchering it. And then Juju. All those combined had less than Jared McKinnon. And that's 1 more than Justin Jefferson, 2 more than Hill, and 3 more than DK Metcalf. So he's going to get us, running backs involved and in the receiving game and in the red zone as well. So we could see Gibson have a big year. We could see Gibson have a big year for sure. And, he the most, touchdowns he's had in a season receiving wise, is 3. And that was in 2021. I could see that double to 6. And that's a bold prediction, but I could see him get, 5, or even if it's not a ton of, touchdowns, just get that number up, right, man. Get that number to 500, 600 plus. And the rushing yards, rushing total might go down a little bit and maybe he'll be more efficient. But we need to see this total number here go a lot higher than it is at 353. Real quick word from the sponsor. Okay, and we're back. And of course, Gibson's going to make the roster. I have to do this with every player, but he's going to make the roster. He'll be the second guy. I think he'll be getting in, 8 carries a game, maybe 8-9 carries a game. Hopefully he's efficient with that. If he is, maybe he'll get more. I don't think it's going to be the same as last year. We probably averaged like 11 carries a game. It'll probably be like this stretch right here, 9-9, 5-5. I think he'll get more than this, obviously, but I think it'll be like around probably on average 8 carries a game, 7-8 carries a game. And Robinson getting like 17 carries a game, and maybe someone else getting a couple, but that's kind of where I think he'll be at. But, catches wise, I think he'll be at least 3 catches every single game, maybe even more, probably like 4 catches actually. Because on average, he probably had, like 3.5 catches a game. Because there's like 4 or 5 games where he had 2 catches, maybe even more than that. Most of the games he had 3, and he had 1 with 7 against the Jaguars. That's what I wanted it to be at almost every week, and that's a little unrealistic, but he should be getting 4, 5, 6 catches every single game and getting a ton of targets, and he wasn't really getting that last year. So let's hope that is a change this year, and Eric Bieniemy gets him the ball, and I think he will because of his, past success with someone like Jerick McKinnon. And let's see, Chris Rodriguez is the next guy. The Commanders drafted him in the 6th round to be a big bruising back. And I forgot to say this earlier. This is a pre-recorded video. Recording this on May 12th, so maybe something happened between, when I'm recording this and when it's, coming out, which is anywhere in the next week or 2. But, Chris Rodriguez drafted in the 6th round. I think he's going to make the roster. You look at his production, solid production, especially in 2021 as a junior, redshirt junior. Almost 1,500, actually no, that's scrimmage yards. How many rushing yards? 1,400 rushing yards, and receiving yards, he had about 60. So, and 13 total touchdowns. So he is a beast, or he was a beast at Kentucky. Senior year, a little bit less. I think he was out. Yeah, he was out for a few games and a little bit less efficient, but he was pretty efficient. His years at Kentucky, 21.5 in his freshman year, but he only got 2 attempts, but 7.5 and 6.6, 6.1, 5.2. So as he got more carries, it went down a little bit, but but that's fine. That's fine. I think he's gonna get. I don't know. I don't know how many carries he's gonna get this year. I think he's gonna make the roster as long as he doesn't do terrible in the offseason. Didn't hear great, and this is the first day. Didn't hear amazing things from him in the first day, but nothing crazy to where I don't think he's gonna make the roster. I think he's making the roster, and then it'll be remain to be seen what he does in the actual games if he even gets carries. Because I heard he didn't have like great pass blocking abilities at Kentucky, and receiving wise, no, but short yardage situations, as long as you can trust him with the ball without fumbling it, I think you can give him a few carries a game and give Brian Robinson a breather, and same thing with Gibson. So I think he'll make the roster. Next two guys, Jarrett Patterson and Jonathan Williams. I like Jarrett Patterson. I don't think Ron Rivera does, which is why I think he probably won't make the roster. But the only thing that could change that is Eric Bieniemy's thoughts on Jarrett Patterson. That could change things, but Jonathan Williams last year got more than double the carries that Jarrett Patterson got. He got 37 for 152 and 4.1 yards a carry. Patterson got 17 for 78 and 4.59 yards a carry. So both of them were more efficient than the first two running backs with less carries, though. But yeah, I like Jarrett Patterson. He's got a great story. Was a Redskins fan growing up, but he hasn't done a ton in his first 2 years because he hasn't gotten a lot of attempts. But I think at this point, like you saw the last game of the season, they were giving Reggie Bonifant more carries than Patterson. I think that's kind of the writing on the wall for him. I don't really think they view him highly, but that could change with Bieniemy. That's the key thing right there. If Bieniemy really likes him, he could make the roster. And Jonathan Williams, kind of, I don't know, same thing I said. Like, they like Williams more than Patterson, but Bieniemy could have a different view. But Jonathan Williams, keep him on the practice squad. Like, I like the guy, but you don't need to necessarily keep a fourth running back, so you could keep Williams and Patterson on the practice squad, but wouldn't mind keeping any of those guys or keeping either of those guys on the roster. I think they still have Reggie Bonifant. Don't think he'll make the roster. So that is it for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. I think this is a solid running back group. I think it's like slightly above average or around average. And if Gibson could grow, and same thing with Robinson, I think it could be like a top 10, top 12 group. We just don't have an elite guy yet, but we have a really solid group. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.